So I'm super excited to be talking about how to get in specifically with cold markets. And Odell is a rock star. I've known him for many years. He's gone through the TSS system. He's created his own speaking program. He's a rock star speaker, great friend of mine for a very, very long time. And I wanted to bring him on because he's always keeping his finger on the pulse of what's happening. And I wanted to share what I know, but I also wanted to make sure we got his perspective because I just appreciate it so very much. So what we're going to do in terms of just talking, we're going to use the chat primarily. At the end, we'll open it up so that if you have a video question or anything like that, you obviously can jump in and ask and get as much value as you possibly can. And if you guys stick around to the end, got a cool little surprise for you for just staying with us that we'll get to tell you about, and Odell will give you some details on it, which is going to be really, really cool. So with that said, Odell, for those of you who don't know, Odell's written, I think, 754 books. He's spoken in almost every state. Dude's been a rock star. I remember the first time I got to actually see him speak. So I met him one time at a conference years back, and then I actually got to see him speak in person. And I got to tell you, the dude lit up the stage, man. He was just lighting it up and just on fire. And I was really, really, really impressed with him. And I can tell you, there's not many speakers that I'm friends with that I'm impressed with, right? Like there's very few people, because a lot of people are full of hot air and a lot of people are very self-serving. But the people who are good people, I hold them close. It's very important to me. I put Odell in that category. So Odell, thank you for being with us today. I really, really appreciate it.
I appreciate that, man. Can I tell you the first time that you saw me speak, when you gave me feedback, and I just want to share this because a lot of times as speakers we're super critical of not just ourselves, but when we see other speakers, it's like we're super critical. Can I share with them like what you said? You probably don't even remember what you said.
I don't know if I remember, so I want to hear this myself.
So we were at Lemoyne, right?
Mm-hmm.
We were at Lemoyne. So Ariel comes through super. He doesn't know that I'm nervous because, again, as speakers, we're super critical of one another. So it's like, man, he's about to give me some really good feedback. Oh, man, I can't wait. So he walks up to me. He's like, yo, Odell. And y'all know Ariel. He's like super high energy, like, hey, high five, everybody. He's like, yo, Odell, it's good, man. Did good. Can I offer you just a little bit of feedback? And I'm like, oh boy. And I'm like, yeah, man, sure. And he said, I just want you to know that this is like LeBron James giving Kevin Durant like a little subtle little pivot. Like it's nothing major. It's nothing like, cause you're great. Like you did. And then he went on to give me the feedback, which really had to do with audience interaction. And so I share that because when you give feedback, and especially if you're looking at other speakers and all this stuff is subjective. So it's like you could sit on the stage and be an engaging speaker, but that's not what you're taught, like in public speaking class or anything like that. So be very, very gracious about how you give. Like, I'll never forget that. Like now, when I give other people feedback, I use the same type of analysis that they can understand. This is like me giving Bobby Fischer a chess a chess tip. It's just a little, just when you move to E5, like just very subtle, but I always appreciate that. And I'm always grateful for our connection and our relationship, since this is going to be the theme of the conversation.
Yeah, and you know, I just want to acknowledge Odell's technical knowledge of chess, because he said E5. I don't know if that's a real thing, but if that is, impressive.
It is.
Okay, all right, definitely. Watch out. Odell plays chess. So, you know, and that's the thing, and we're going to get into what the main crux of what we're talking about here, and I want to emphasize that idea of 1% changes. You know, a 1% change is the difference between someone responding to an email and someone not responding to an email. A 1% change is the difference between people saying, yes, I want to book you to speak, and no, like they're going to forget about you. So those 1% changes may seem insignificant, but one of the things I'm like manically obsessed with in terms of the art of speaking is like every detail matters to me. where I'm on the stage when I say something negative versus where I'm on the stage when I say something positive. They're never in the same place because I anchor places on the stage for sad emotional stories, and I anchor places on the stage so that it's positive and strong. So when I need to say something positive and strong, just by physically moving to that place in the stage, I can shift my audience's perspective. It's things that most people wouldn't even see, and I think most people wouldn't even care about, to be very honest with you. But like, this is like my, I think, and again, this is, I'm not saying I'm Dave Chappelle, but I think the way that Dave Chappelle looks at comedy, if you've ever heard him talk about comedy, he loves every nuance of it. He loves everything about a delivery of a joke. And I was like, I'm not a comedian, but I feel that way about public speaking. And I feel that if you can really understand these 1% changes, it's the difference between pulling someone in for an emotional, like for example, you might see me do this move. So I'm gonna give you, this is a technical thing, and then we're going to the big idea. But you might see me do this move right here a lot on my chair, virtually. Now, why do I do that move? Because if I'm sitting, this is a normal, I want you guys to look at me for a second if you're not visually looking at me, because I want you to catch this. I'm sitting here, this is the normal spectrum of someone sitting and speaking on a Zoom call. This is normal, hands here, talking. But if I do something like this, that slight change, if you're watching the video, it causes you to say, what the hell was that? And that's all I need you to do. I just need you to bring your attention back. So you might see me do something like, oh, okay, I want to tell you this. You see that move right there? So I do a clap and I change my position just so that my audience can go, what was that? What was that little, why did he change? And if I can get them doing that, I can keep their attention. If I can keep their attention, ideally, I can impact them in a really, really positive way. So I look at all of these nuances and all these little things, and these 1% changes are big. And one of the biggest change that I cannot stress, and I want you to think about this at a very deep level. If you saw some of the emails I put out, I alluded to what is the quintessential most important, in my opinion, the single most important thing you can have that is the most valuable tool, will get you the most money as a speaker, will get you paid the most per speaking engagement, will get you booked and rebooked, and will get you referred, and will get you in the door. And it is not a powerful story. It is not a engaging delivery method. It is not the most hot fire content, right? All those things that we typically believe that it is. What it really is, and you might not like it, but it's what it is relationships. I want to break this down so you don't just turn off mentally and go, oh, okay, relationships. No, let me actually break this down so you can see how people don't understand relationships and people who do understand relationships, okay? So many people think that the people who can book you to speak are sitting around on their computer going like this. Oh Lord, will Ariel please send me an email? I don't know who Ariel is, but I wish he could send me an email so that I can bequeath a booking on him. And until he reaches out, I shall sit here and do nothing. Only if Cedric would reach out. Oh, my world would be so much better. I can bestow upon him all of this financial benefit I have waiting in my purse. You know, first of all, no one speaks like that. And two, nobody does that. No one's sitting around. So what happens is people send these emails out, right? Yeah, I know, Bryn, who doesn't use bequeath regularly in a sentence, right? So what happens to a lot of speakers is that they send these emails or they do these tactics that scream transactional. And what I mean by transactional is it screams, hey, I know you've never met me before, and I know you've never heard of me before, and you don't know if I'm a rapist or a pedophile or an axe murderer. You know nothing about me, but hey, would you bring me in to speak to your students and pay me a bunch of money? Would you bring me in to speak? Hey, I know we've never met before, but could you jump on the phone with me so we can have a conversation about you bringing me in? And the answer is always an emphatic no, because that's a transactional kind of conversation. So what it really is about is the idea of relationships. So talking about relationships, Odell, tell me more about who you believe are the people that we need to be building relationships with. What are the titles? What are the kinds of individuals for folks who want to get booked? What do you believe are those people to build those relationships with?
Yeah, definitely. I want to touch on, what you were talking about with the imaginary person bequeathing a
I shall
hefty
bequeath
sum.
it.
A hefty sum. That is like 1,000% what we think. And just to be repetitive, because repetition is the mother of learning. We've heard it before. It's all about relationships. And then it goes in one ear and out the other. So the individuals that you're speaking of, the job titles and all that stuff, a small part, with few exceptions, a small part of their job is to book speakers. It's a small part. So when you're sending emails like that and you're expecting an immediate response and all that, you're interrupting their daily work. You're interrupting what's going on. We don't like to be interrupted. Think about nowadays, we don't look forward to people calling us. We don't look forward to getting mail, like physical mail. Remember when you're a little kid, you used to run to the mailbox? Mommy, I got the mail. We're like, man, what's in there?
Yeah, like if someone, true story, if someone calls any of you and you don't recognize the number, is your first thought, who is this friend reaching out to me from the abyss of friendship? Or do you hit the red ignore button? Which one do you do? That's the real
Automatically.
one. Exactly. It's a really good point, Odell. Really good point.
Yeah, and a lot of you all on here, I would say maybe 90% of y'all actually like people. Right? There's some people that don't, but back to the point. So when you're looking at relationships to make, depending on the market, depending on the industry, you always want to look at the job title that controls the bag, if you to use the young folk vernacular. So at a college or something, departments, so the director of student life, if they're not the person that does it, they know who does it. If it's a larger school, larger university, then they probably don't do it, but they know who does it. So director, assistant director of student life, that's a department. If you're looking at an association or something like that, executive director. There are tons of youth organizations. I know the TSS system has, that in it, but look at those organizations and then find like executive director, or something like that. Another quick tip to use is when you go to those websites is to make sure that you're looking at the conferences, and you're looking at the planning committee. You're seeing what the planning committee does. And all that is you're gathering a roster of people that could potentially book speakers. And if they don't, then they know who does, or they have known. And so when we're talking about relationships, building relationships, I'll give it to you like this, and then I'll turn it back to you, Aurel. My wife and I, we've been married since we were babies. That's what I say. We were babies. 22, 21 years old, babies. And a lot of people are like, Odell, how did y'all do it? How did y'all do it? I don't know, besides grace, serendipity, whatever. But I do know I was very intentional about what I wanted in a wife. And I made a list. My aunt, who's been married to my uncle for 42 years now, said that's what she did. She made a list, pros and cons. She picked my uncle because he had the most pros. And she said, you need to make a list, and then you only need to date young women that match what you have to have on your list, period. So with you as a speaker, you need to find that group of people, the directors at colleges, directors, assistant directors of departments like student life, like multicultural affairs, like student activities, like career services in some points, executive directors for associations, different things like that. Find them on LinkedIn, like really dig in and research and figure out who these individuals are, and only reach out to those people with helpful information for their job. Not, hey, I'm a speaker, you should book me, because like Aurel said, they don't know you, and frankly, they don't care about you, and they shouldn't. So our job is to make sure that we're offering something that's helpful to them in a relationship. I want to make sure that we're cool. Here's something that's cool. And then just keeping in contact with them. And when you do it like that, you'll be positioned very, very well to book more speeches.
Yeah, and I wanna really dig on this because I want you to catch this. I want to give you some really specific things to do right now with this information because Odell's dropping some really powerful things, right? Number one, if any of you have children, you'll easily get what I'm about to say. If you do not have children, you'll still be able to imagine what I'm saying fairly enough. So for any of us who have kids, imagine someone who you've never ever met before, who you don't know at all, and they say, hey, I'm a great babysitter. I love to come over your house and babysit your children for you. I charge $75 an hour and I'm the best babysitter in town. Come on and drop your kids off at my house and I'll take care of them for you, right? If you think of it in that context, no sane parent would go, well, honey, I think I found the answer to our prayers. We're going to go pay this overpriced babysitter and go drop our babies off at their house and come back. And hopefully they'll be fine and not manipulated or hurt in any way, right? We wouldn't do it. But what happens is because you know that you're a good person, because you know that you have a great message and you can help people, because you know that there's a belief that other people should know that as well. Well, they should just know this about me. They should just know, like, I care so much. They should just, so I'm going to reach out to them and go, the answer to your prayers is here. And the truth is, I would not drop my kids off to anyone who wasn't extremely well vetted, extremely well, even if they were well referred, I still need to I need to know them. I need to see them. Now keep in mind, going to the babysitter example. If I have a friend and I go over, this happened to me, right? I went over to a friend's house and they had a babysitter there, like kind of like a mom's helper kind of person, helping out around the house, taking care of the kids so we can like hang out and have our like, this is pre-COVID. And I was like, yo, like she seems really, really good. We spoke, she had this great energy. So now I was like, yo, are you taking on more people? She was like, yeah, I got time in my schedule. So because I was exposed to her and saw her in action and saw her do her thing, I could totally see how she could help my children. As an analogy, I want you to think of these student affairs professionals, student like campus activities. These people look at college students as their children. And who they bring on that campus is a big deal to them because it's not just personally important to them. If they throw one bad event, there's this fear like no one will ever show up again, right? So, oh my gosh, we brought this speaker. The speaker was horrible. I'm never going back to anything the campus does. And like the challenging thing is, especially if you're dealing with colleges, it's not the same in high schools, but in colleges, it's hard to get people to show up. In high schools, they're forced to show up. So it's a little easier. Now, if it's a leadership conference or something like that, and you have people, then that's kind of easy. However, if it's like an event where it's like open to everyone, please show up. Like, I mean, I've had events where 4 kids show up. And it's like, it's sad. Now, the good news is I like to think I do a good enough job that everyone goes, that's amazing. And then I get everyone into like, one section of the room and take a picture and then it makes it seem like everybody was there. You do things like that. But the point is, I want you to think about if you had children, how would you want to choose the babysitter that you would leave your kids with if you left? What's that mindset? How do you think about that? And I want to go into some strategies on how to do that. But Adele, do you want to touch upon that before we go into specific strategies?
I think go ahead and jump into strategies.
Yeah.
I love that analogy, man. The babysitter analogy. I'm gonna appropriate that one.
But the reason why I love it because it makes it real. You know what I mean? Like when you think about your children, So I think too many of us, we understand how we'd like to be approached, but then we approach people the way we don't like to be approached. So I always put something through the lens of, if I was sending this email to me, or if I was doing this outreach, or if I was interacting with me, would I like me? Would I be connected to me? So this begs the question, right? Well, how do I start getting in with people if they don't know me? Now, what most people typically will do, most people, is they will send email after email, message after message. Hey, do you want to jump on the phone? Hey, here's my video. Hey, here's this. Now, if anyone knows anything about direct response marketing, which is what that basically is, you're sending an email to a cold person who doesn't know you with the efforts of direct response. If you can get a 2% return rate, that's amazing. But so even though we may have heard these numbers, we don't actually get that. So here's what happens. Someone sends 50 emails, they get 0 response, and they go, it doesn't work. You didn't do enough to get your 2%. Like, to get 2 people, you need like 100 outreaches, but that's if your copy is like A1. So you can't just, I've built, and okay, so I'm going to be very honest, right? And I know, Adele, you have strategies, and I want you to share yours. I'm going to give you my personal philosophy. I don't cold outreach to people. I just don't do it because I don't like it. I think that it is a waste of my time. I think that if I'm cold outreaching, I am trying to convince someone that I am great. And I don't like that positioning. The way I like to think of it is, do you think Beyonce has to cold outreach to 75 stadiums for one of them to book her to sing? I would say no. She doesn't have to do that. However, I also need to know, I know I'm not Beyonce of the game, right? Like, none of us are Beyonce of the game, right? Like, or whatever person you love, right? So how do you become that in their eyes? Well, there's a couple of things that I encourage you to do. The first thing is, you have to get people to see you doing your thing, okay? You have to get people seeing you speaking. If you want to know the single most powerful way to get booked to speak, it's to have people who can book you to speak seeing you speak. Period. Okay, I'm gonna go deeper into this, okay? But I want you to follow my logic, okay? The best way for me to choose a babysitter for my kids is to see that babysitter interacting with kids. How do they act when they're angry? Do they yell at them? Do they have that really cool, stern first grade teacher voice? Don't do that, Jimmy. And Jimmy goes, ow, ow, and he stops. Do they have that voice? Do the kids run all over them? I'll tell you this crazy story. I put my kids into this summer camp last year, and it was supposed to be amazing. The camp shut down for good reason, right? Lord have mercy. So it was this trampoline park and a Lego building camp. Sounds like heaven, doesn't it? For a kid, jump on a trampoline for an hour, build Legos for an hour. My wife goes, oh, I forgot to give my son his snack. So she circles back to the venue to go give him his snack. And my wife is like organic, vegan, not vegan, but she likes really, really healthy, organic kind of food. These teenagers who are watching my kids are giving them like 32-ounce cups of soda and Pepsi, like, at will. So my kid has got this big old thing of soda because they had this like soda machine. He's sipping it. My wife shows up and he looks at her like, what the? And my wife's like, how many of those you had so far? He was like, I've only had 3. He was like, 3? What in the? And we're looking at the counselors, and they were all high school kids who were just chilling and like more concerned with trying to like, date each other than watch our kids. So I immediately go like, we're done with this camp. And they closed down the next, before COVID happened, they closed down. Because like, you can't do something like that. So I needed, like, I was sold on the idea, but then I was burned on the back end. But there's other camps that my kids have gone to where they love it. They're running around, building things and having joy and coming back and showing me things and all this kind of stuff, right? So I was like, I need to see this in action. So when I chose the next camp, I needed to see them doing it. And I said, okay, I like the vibe. I'm just going to look around. So I share this with you because if people aren't seeing you speak, then it's going to be I'm trying to sell you on something and I haven't seen the product. So there are ways for people to see you to speak. I'm going to give you one that I really like right now. But before I go into that, I want to pass it back to Odell because I know that you have some great strategies for building relationships and getting in with people. So share some of your favorite stuff.
Yeah, man. I can just imagine Yolanda, because Yolanda and Sierra are a lot alike with the organic, and Sierra would have took the kids home that moment. She was like, you know what? Let's go.
And just for the record, these kids had soda, and if they asked for a refill, there was no like filter for these teenagers that was like, we should say no. They're just like, yeah. One of my son's friends had like 5 cups of a 32-ounce like. Do you know how many? All right, I'm getting angry. Go ahead, Odell. I'm sorry.
So first of all, I love the conversation about zero cold outreach. So earlier in our careers, when we would often go back and forth about strategy stuff, I remember an email between us where you was like, man, I hate cold emails. You said, I hate them. I can't wait. And it was something like, I can't wait till a time where I don't have to do this. And so if you're on here, depending on, wherever you came into the speaking, your journey, sometimes you think, well, cold outreach, that might be all you can do. I did it wrong for years. Like I was the dude that sent those emails that Ariel's talking about, like, hey, book me to speak. Hey, I'm only 27 and I've written 5 books already. Wouldn't you want your students to do? Like, seriously, it was horrible. And so I did all that stuff the bad way. And so doing cold outreach, I would say now is more like practice. Like it's literally practice. Because if you do enough, like we're talking about, if you say 2% with emails, is probably worse because of deliverability and spam police and all that stuff. So if you send 1,000 emails, now you're kind of like, you have a metric of what's getting delivered and what people are responding to. And a lot of times people will be really, really nice and actually give you a response and say, stop emailing me. But so cold outreach is hard, is difficult, and it makes a lot of people quit. So I'll say that. You still do whatever you want to do. Whatever me and Ariel suggest is simply that. It's just a suggestion. But I'll always, live by the philosophy, if you want people's results, just do what they did. So as far as strategies, how you're getting in front of people, and I know a couple people in the chat are talking about, LinkedIn and, all these different things and all that. So what you have to do, what we talked about earlier, finding those individuals, finding out their titles, finding where they are, finding where they really consume content, just finding where that is. And if you think about it, if you wanted to reach a celebrity, if you wanted to reach out, you would have to go through somebody, some entity to do it. You could DM whoever your favorite celebrity is on whatever social platform. They're not going to get back to you more than likely. So you got to go through an entity or an individual. The best way for you to get, I guess, a warm introduction is to go through an association or an organization that your target client is connected to or familiar with. So it's, again, going back to the TSS system where you have all of those, the list of organizations. Use the organization. Say, hey, I have something for this group. Do you have a publication? That's a lot easier to ask than, hey, can you hire me to speak at your next conference? Because what you want to do is always position yourself as somebody that can help. It's really, really hard for good people to turn down good help. So it's like in a Real's babysitting analogy, we here, so we just gonna be here, all right? So if he is at the park, if he and his kids and his wife are at the park, and he's got two kids, and one of them like falls down or something like that, and a nice lady or somebody is like, oh, hey, here's a Band-Aid. Here's something that can help your son, not a business card, nothing. Here's a Band-Aid, or here's some aloe vera, something that you can rub on that. Then you're going to be less likely to be as critical if that person comes up a week or two later as, oh, I'm a babysitter, or I'm a nanny, or whatever. You're like, that makes sense. They're always prepared. And so what you have to do is make sure that you're that person and just offering help and saying, hey, this is something that you can do. Something I always suggest that you do is create something like, and I'm going to direct response as well, a consumer awareness guide. So Aurel talked about, the summer camp that was crap. And so if he ran across a guy that said, hey, here's 7 tips to pick the greatest summer camp for your kids, after he had that bad experience, he'd be like, oh, okay, well, cool. And so for a speaker, and I've suggested this ever since COVID start, like, because, with Zoom and all this different stuff, is like, just offer them something to help. Like, here are 10 ways to cure Zoom fatigue for your students. And somebody in the chat mentioned, well, I eventually have to tell them I'm a speaker, right? Listen, yes, you do, but most people are smart. So if you're offering something like that, they're going to like be curious about, okay, well, why are you even qualified to say this? Or how do you know that this works? And then that's when you give them your information. So I would suggest everybody on here, just whatever segment you're going after, like offer some kind of awareness guide. Hey, here's 10 steps to avoid this. Here's 7 tips, 7 steps to do this. It could be 3 steps, whatever, but just offer them something helpful. And
right.
then go ahead.
I want to piggyback off of this because this is really important. So I want everyone to catch this because this is a very specific thing you can do right now. And I want to show you why what Odell is saying is so smart, okay? One, you come up with this useful like article or 7-step sheet, 7-step thing, whatever is your target topic, you come up with this useful piece of content, right? And I'll add to that, it's gotta be good. What a lot of people say is like, oh, I don't want to give away my best content in this article or something because then they're not going to book me to speak because I gave them my best idea. It's actually the contrary. The more good ideas you give, the more people think, what else does this person know? I want to learn more for them. So let's take this example. You write like an 800-word article, something simple, or a guide, okay? You then approach a couple of associations who have blogs, who have printed and virtual periodicals that they send out to their members, and you don't say, hey, can I write for you? No, you go, here are 3 articles that I've written. If you like any of them or think they would be helpful for you, please go ahead and use it. It would be my honor to be able to help. Title, article number 1 is titled this. Article number 2 is titled this. Article number 3 is titled this, right? So now here's what happens. Let's go a step further. They have to create content. This is the secret of like, I've been featured in like Forbes and Inc. and Entrepreneur and New York Times and all these incredible publications. One of the things that people don't truly grasp if they haven't published yet is these networks need good content. They need good content and they need it every damn day, especially if they have an online presence, right? So if you can create something that they can put up on their blog or they can send out in an email or that's helpful or they can put up, they'll go ahead and either A, publish it for you. And then when you reach out to people, your outreach isn't, hey, I know you never heard of me, book me. You can say, hey, did you get a chance to check out my article that was recently featured in, AFLV's student fraternity leadership blog that they have, right? I think it would be really helpful right now, especially during these times. Please go ahead and check it out. So now you're not coming in with, yo, book me to speak, put me on the phone. It's like, yo, I've been co-signed. Come check this out. And now when you're reaching out to people, you have a reason to reach out to them. And I would argue, even if you don't get published, even if you don't get published in like one of these big periodicals or whatever, or industry things, you can still create that post yourself and share that. Post it on your own blog, post it on Medium, right? If you don't know Medium or LinkedIn, it's a blog posting. It's very, very popular. And say, hey, I know times are crazy right now. I put together some of my best stuff. Here it is. But I can't stress this. If it sounds like something they've heard 1,000 times, there's no incentive to share it. It's gotta be some of your good stuff. Yeah, you can create articles on LinkedIn. Thank you, Chris, right? So you can create your own articles, but I encourage you to create it yourself and share it and tell people. It's not like you have to create a new article for each one. Like I've had one article get like shared like by 6 or 7 different places, but then that becomes a touch point for me to use. So I really want to emphasize when Odell said you write something, you share it, one, you're being useful and helpful up front, and you're not asking for permission. This is a 1%er right here. If you go, hey, I know you never heard of me, can I write for you? You know what the answer is? No. But if you're like, yo, here's 3 articles, and I always like to give at least 2 or 3, so that like if they like my stuff, they have 2 more that they can put out, which is really nice. So I would encourage you to do that, especially within your particular niches. Like, you know, if you want to do like fraternal, like Greek sorority, fraternity stuff, AFLV, they're a great place to do something like that. But that's a really powerful way to start getting that visibility. And then when you reach out, it's like, hey, I'm not sure if you saw my article, wanted to share it with you. Then if someone responds, hey, this was a really great article, as soon as I get a response to an email, first thing I'm doing, LinkedIn request, Facebook request, Instagram follow, Twitter follow. All of that immediately. Because if they give me just a little bit, I want, now if I hit them on LinkedIn and go, oh, that's the dude's article I just read. In that moment, okay, all right, I'm gonna go deep here because now I'm getting hyped. Okay, Odell, you know how much I love Dan Kennedy, and I know you like Dan Kennedy as well. Okay, for those of you who don't know Dan Kennedy, he is a legendary direct response writer. He talks, this is important, he talks about being in heat. So bear with me because it's a little crude, but it's important. Dan Kennedy says that you have to interact with people when they're in heat. So as we all know about dogs, when they get in heat, what do? They do the nasty, okay? They make puppies. That's what they do. They don't do it any other time of year. Do you know that? Like, it's not like humans. Like us, we're like, any time of the year, let's go. Dogs or animals, they have to be in heat. So when I send an article to someone and they read it and let me know something good, they're in the heat phase of my good aura, if you will. So that's the moment that I need to go LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, Snapchat, whatever. Like I'm hitting them on all of them because I don't know which one they're gonna accept or be on or whatever it is. But that's the moment I'm gonna get a yes. If they don't know me and I just reach out to them, I get a less chance that they're gonna accept my request. So I really, really, yeah, I know. I don't know about these analogies. I hope that you remember them, okay? The doggy style. That's inappropriate. Any kids here? I'm gonna take it back. I'm sorry. I'm gonna pull back. I apologize. Cynthia, I'm sorry. You guys signed up for this.
No refunds. But here's what's really, really important with that. And I want to be very intentional about being repetitive. That one thing that I mentioned, nobody's going to do it. And that's what breaks my heart because it's so, and Jim Rohn used to say this, what's easy to do is also easy not to do. Because what's going to happen is you're like, oh, snap, I'm going to write the best article. Then you're going to think of a headline and you're going to get stuck. You're going to be like, 7. No, that sounds Zoom fatigue. People have been saying that since, what am I? And so I want to be intentional. I want to repeat this. This is something that most people don't do so that when you do it, you're going to separate yourself. And that's what starts happening. Like Ariel and I, we've known each other since 2009. We've seen speakers come in yet on fire. And we'll never see him again, we'll never hear about him again. And it's like, because when stuff starts getting hard, people get ghost. And it's like, you've got to really, 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 really be focused on making sure that you do the work. And I want to address the question real quick before I throw it back to you. Is a podcast equally as valuable as writing an article? I'm going to give my opinion, and then I'm going to throw it to Ariel to see what he thinks. I would say initially no, because you can skim an article. It's really, really hard to skim a podcast. Like if I'm listening to your podcast, I'm like invested into your world. But if it's an article where it's like, okay, cool. That's one idea that I like. Who's that? Okay, cool. And then they'll go. We're a society of skimmers. We don't study stuff. A podcast requires a little more studying, but Ariel, I throw that back at you.
Yeah, and I think that's a really great point. So I wouldn't tell you don't do like if someone invites you on a podcast, I wouldn't say don't do it because it's not helpful. It is, because the more content you have out there, the better. But Odell is very right. Like, you ever see a really long sales page like on the internet? What do? You skim it. It's called the second path of readership. Now we're getting into like the nuanced stuff, right? So when you write sales copy on a web page, you write it the first time to say everything you want to say. Then you look at it through what's called the second path of readership, which is the skim. That's why every single website or sales page you've seen from anyone who's successful, they have titles and subtitles. And the reason why they have titles and subtitles, the really, really good ones, is because if you just read the titles and the subtitles and nothing else, you would still get the gist of what you were looking at. Because there are people who are skimmers and there are people who are deep divers. You have the long form sales letter for the deep divers, but the large majority of people are skimmers. So that's why something like, 7 tips or 5 strategies or, 10 best is good. Because if you look at those articles, and tell me if you've done this, be honest, you've seen an article that says the 7 best ways to do X. There's a title and then there's like a couple of paragraphs under each one. Don't you skim each one to see which one interests you and then you read that one more deeply? You don't sit there and read everything. So the reason why it's so powerful to create that written work is because people can skim it, and then if they like it, they go, ooh, what's this about? And that's all. It's like, like when you, I assume we all use YouTube, and if you subscribe to people on YouTube, you might see a video and go, ooh, I like this. And then you watch another video, ooh, I like this. What do? You subscribe. You rarely ever subscribe on the first good video, because it could be a fluke, right? They could have just had one good video. So that's why like certain content is really powerful. One of the things I did, which I'll give you guys like one of my ninja strategies here. I don't even know if I've ever told you this one, Adele, so this will be new for all of us here. I actually took out a whole page ad once. It was an APCA magazine. I paid for an ad, but then I wrote it like it was an article. It's called the editorial. I don't know if you've ever seen that before. So you pay for, like, because I can right now get anywhere I want. I can get a full page anywhere, right? But I got the full page, but then I wrote it like it was an article. And then on top, you just write, this is a promotion. You've seen these in newspapers and magazines. They look like articles, but they're actually ads. They're called advertorials is what they're called. Advertorials, not editorial, advertorial. So again, that cost money, but I did it because I wanted to get a full page in the thing and be able to use that. And I did. It was really, really helpful. So there are ways to do that. I want to go into another strategy, unless there's something you want to cover on this, Odell, because there's something I want to share that I think is really powerful.
Go ahead.
Okay. So let me stress this. The single most powerful way to get booked is for someone to see you to speak. Okay. Period. Now, what I would recommend for all of you who have a client list, or you've done some work with some people already, right? So Alex, what I said was the single best way to get booked to speak is to have someone see you speak. Okay. It's the single best way to get booked. Okay. See you speak, actually do your craft, public speak, whether virtually or in person. If someone can come into my audience and see me do my thing, the odds of them booking me go from like 0% to like 90% off the bat. So what I encourage all of you to do is, if you have a client list of any shape, form, or fashion, I would encourage you to do literally an event where you invite all of them, because it's virtual. They can be anywhere in the world. So instead of reaching out to them and saying, hey, I know it hasn't been, you haven't booked me in a while, rebook me, right? And again, if you have a close enough relationship, you can. But one of the things you can do in the Zoom world is say, hey, I'm going to be doing a free training on XYZ. This is literally the same content that I do. I would love to invite you to come check it out. Hey, and then they'll go, cool, I'll be there. Then I always say, awesome. Is there anyone else that you could invite by chance? Oh yeah, I can bring so-and-so. The reason why that's so powerful is for two reasons. Number one, and a lot of people don't know this, so if you know this, this is good, but I'll repeat it. A college is siloed. So what I mean by that is the Multicultural Affairs Department has no idea what student life is doing. Student life has no idea what the Greek office is doing. I've literally spoken at colleges more than once, and they had no idea I was there before. Like zero. And I was like, I've been here before, right? And it was like, you have? And I was like, yeah, like 5 years ago I was here. And they're like, oh, I had no idea. It was a different department, literally never communicated. And I just assumed that obviously that's the reason why they're working with me, because but then it blew my mind when I realized how siloed it is. So if I can get them to bring someone from another department, that invitation is way stronger than me. And if I can get them to bring someone from a different institution, that's way better than me. If any of you have speaking engagements coming up, and it's all virtual right now, you need to invite everyone in a mama to come as your special VIP guest. This has been one of my favorite strategies for the in-person world, and it works really well in the virtual world. So let's say Jones University, I'm making this up, right? You want to speak there, and you never spoke there, and you're speaking at Bill University. You go to like multiple people at Jones University. Hey, I'm doing this event at Bill University. I'd love for you to be my VIP guest and join. We're going to be covering this, 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 and this. If that's helpful to you, I can get you in, and it would be, just for you, no charge or anything like that. Would you like to come see it? If you can get them to say yes, that's a micro commitment. That commitment's huge. And then they can see you do your thing. And then the fear is, oh, but if they see me do my thing, are they going to? Yeah, of course they are, because they're the only ones who saw you. If they go, oh my gosh, we need this, can you? And then they're going to ask you silly questions like, could you do this for my students too? It's like, yeah, of course I can. Like, why? Yes, I can. Adele, do people ever ask you that? Like, they see you speak and they come up to you afterwards and they say, hey, I don't know if you do this, but could you come speak at our event as well?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And that goes back to something else, a question that somebody had in the chat. Should I eventually tell them that I'm a speaker? You can literally be on stage speaking for money, and they still come up to you and ask, is this something that you do? You could show pictures. This is when I spoke here. This is when I spoke here, because I do that in all my presentations. This is where I spoke here. Bio and everything. Could you do this at our? So I think a lot of times, and you mentioned it before, we try to, we don't want to be approached a certain way, but we approach people the opposite way. We also have to remember we don't retain as much as we think we do, like in our conscious. So even though you might think that, oh, of course they're going to remember that. Of course I can't give them my best stuff. No, give them your best stuff. Give them your best show, because hopefully you're going to be better in a week, in a month. And so your best stuff won't be your best stuff anymore. And so you've got to continually know. And Patricia Fripp, legendary speaking coach, she has this quote, and then I'll throw it back to you. She said that it's not our audience's job to remember us. It's our job to be memorable. It's not their job to remember us. It's our job to be memorable. And so we have to be memorable with our content. And then, oh, and I lied, my fault. The point about the client list, this is something that I'm doing. And I always tell people this, like, I just do what I'm doing, do what's working. All of my clients, we're having a virtual holiday party. And come through. It's going to be fun. We're going to wear ugly sweaters and all that stuff. It's like, that's what we're doing. And even if they don't come, they got the invite. Even if they don't come, they got the invite, and I'm back in their mind like, oh yeah, Odell does exist. That's what's up. And that's what we want to do.
Yeah, and Odell, you're bringing up something really powerful, and I want to stress this. Every single one of you listening to our voices right now, I want you to catch this. You're thinking every day about getting booked to speak and speaking. So what happens is you're thinking about it every day. So there's this false belief that others are thinking about you in the same way. I'll tell you a story. There was a college I spoke at 8-9 years ago, long time ago. 2 years ago, I go to the zoo and I'm with my kids and we're looking at the penguins, right? And we're like enjoying our time with the penguins, right? And this woman comes up to me and goes, Arel? And I go, yeah. And she goes, do you remember me? You spoke at our college like 9 years ago. And I was like, yeah, I actually do remember you. I was like, what are you doing here? She was like, oh, I'm visiting a family member. I was like, oh, I didn't know. And so we had this whole conversation and she goes, I've been following you on Facebook. You're doing real well. Man, I'm so happy for you. I was like, man, I really appreciate that. Thank you, thank you. She goes, you know what? We should book you to come back. And I said, yeah, that'd be amazing. So we set it up and we booked something. But I remember leaving that conversation going, we've worked together already. Like, you've booked me already. You told me that you're seeing me do great things. And I appreciate all those things. But then it hit me like, until she ran into me at the zoo and had a conversation with me, she never made the realization for herself to say, we should book him to speak. Actually, it was probably like hold on, I only had one kid at the time. Jeez Louise, that was a long time ago this zoo thing happened. It's probably like 5 years ago. So I probably spoke there 8-9 years ago, and the zoo thing happened 5 years ago. So what I realized about that is it's important to remind people that they can work with you, but you got to build that relationship first. So this is one of my strategies. I want you to catch this, okay? This is an Arel strategy. I find it to work. A lot of people I feel like won't do it, but I could be wrong. I'll share it, you decide. So let's say there's someone I met like Odell, you know, Bernie, who's a great guy, Benny, right? Who's a great guy. This is a guy who I know books speakers, and I'd love for him to book me to speak, right? So I'm gonna message him and say, hey man, you guys booking any speakers? And whenever I feel the need to write a message like that, I always stop myself and not write it. I always stop myself and I say, hey, haven't spoken to you in a while. Just want to check in. What's one thing new or exciting? I want you to catch this. So someone I have somewhat of a relationship with, if my first impulse is saying, man, you know what, this person hasn't booked me in a while, I should reach out to them. My first impulse is, don't ask for it right now. Don't ask for it right now. Just reach out to connect. Here's why. Most people only reach out when they need something. It's a human nature thing. So I'm like, man, I haven't spoken to this dude in a while. Maybe he can book me to speaking. I haven't spoken there in a while. Let me reach out to him. And then I go, I wouldn't want someone just to reach out to me asking for stuff. So I pause and then I just say, hey man, just checking in, haven't spoken in a while. Now, sometimes I get a response from people. Sometimes I don't. If I don't get a response, I'm not offended. But typically, what you will almost always happen when I get responses is they'll eventually ask me, how are things going with you? Now, this is important. I want you to understand the deep psychology of this. Stay with me. You connect with someone, haven't heard from you in a while, just want to check in with you. What's one thing new or exciting? And I let them go wherever they want with it, start a great conversation. Then they eventually will ask me, what's new with you, Arel? And I go, oh man, thank you so much, man. I've been doing a bunch of speaking events lately. And, I did this virtual event over here, which was awesome. And I did this thing over here, man. So like, man, I'm just super blessed, man. I can't complain. Then almost naturally, if there is a fit, the person will say, we need to have you come back. Now, catch this. I never asked for the sale. I never said, hey, come book me to speak. But just because I engaged in that conversation and I knew how the pattern of a conversation normally goes, and I talked about the thing I wanted them to have in their mind, if there's a fit, they'll ask me. And when they ask you, it's a way different conversation than when you ask them. But that goes to the relationship, because there are some times when I reach out to someone and I say that and nothing happens. And instead of me being upset, like, oh, it didn't work, I go, I just made a deposit into our relationship, and I don't make the ask. And I don't make the ask. Because if I make too many asks, then I like corrode the social capital. So I would encourage you all to look at some folks that you've been wanting to work with and you maybe talked to and it didn't work out, or you have worked with, and just ask yourself, like, when's the last time you reached out just to check in on them as a human? One of the quotes that I love is a quote that says, check in on your strong friends because no one really does. Check in on your strong friends. People check in on the person who cries all the time. But that strong person, they're still going through stuff. But no one ever says, Odell, how's your day, man? How are you feeling? They're like, oh, Odell's fine. He's got that like luxurious beard and a great crossover and a beautiful family. Like, he's fine. But like, he's a human. Like, he's gonna go through things. So like, hey, just checking in on, as a human. How are you? It goes a long way, and it naturally leads to that relationship. And that relationship is so much more than the transaction. So much more.
And the last thing I'll say about that is do that with your family and friends, because I'm one of those people that, and my dad, I'll give him credit for this. He always told me when I was younger, hey, check on the old people. They're going to die one day. So he would always say, check on your grandma, check on, I had an great aunt that used to take care of us every summer. Like, call her and don't ask for nothing. Just call, and they're old, so they're going to talk and just listen. And like, literally, that's all I used to do as a kid. And so growing up, like, it's just second nature. And so I'm the friend that's usually checking on my other friends, like, hey, what's up? How you doing? What's going on? And like now, like I've always told famously, like my office is in my grandma's basement. Like, I'm sure my grandma loves all of her grandchildren, but she lets me have this office space that could literally be, I could be charged a whole lot of money for. And so it's about relationships. And if you start doing that in your family, holiday times, and you might be thinking, well, they don't ever check on me. That's fine. Don't even worry about that. You do it. And then, like Arel said, you're depositing that social currency, and it'll be so easy. But and the last thing, sometimes those conversations don't even turn back to, hey, are you speaking? Because I actually messaged somebody the other day, and it went a whole different way. We was talking about sports. We was talking about wife, kids, talking about all different things. And then I just was like, you know what? I'm not even going to say anything about anything. And then like a week later, he messaged me back and was like, hey, what's new?
And I'm really big on the word friend. I think I made this word up. I don't know if I did. If
I've
anyone
never
else
heard it before, so I'll
I
credit.
like to say that I coined the word friend, which is like, all my clients are my friends. Like, all of my clients are people who literally, if they never book me again, I would still want to hang out with them, and they would still want to hang out with me. That's the mentality I take. There's this one gentleman who I knew book speakers, and I built this incredible relationship with him, right? Incredible relationship with him, to the point that I literally would go to his house whenever I was in Utah and like hang out with his family and have dinner. And he would take me driving up the beautiful mountains of Utah, right? Like, and I was like, I love this guy. Like, literally, if they never booked me, if he, well, no, he never booked me, right? But I was like, this guy is just cool. And then like 6 years later, he goes, oh, well, we got this leadership conference and I want you to speak at it. And in my head, I was like, man, that's awesome. I genuinely thought he would never ever book me. Like I thought we were just friends and it was just one of those weird things. I never brought it up. I never pushed it. He never pushed it. But here's the thing. I'm willing to farm. I'm willing to farm, and most people are only willing to hunt. Most people are not willing to play the long game. They play the transactional game. So here's what happens with the transactional mindset, okay? The transactional mindset goes, I gotta smash out 17 emails today to cold people and book something. Book, 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 book. That's throwing spears. That's trying to like hunt. Now, none of us have probably ever hunted a wild boar with a spear before, but I can tell you it's not a high success rate. There's a reason why everyone from back in the day was skinning, okay? Because they were running around, throwing spears, not catching lots of food, okay? This is just facts, okay? This is not my opinion, okay? Look at any picture from way back in the day, okay? Everybody was jacked and muscular because we just, do you know how hard it is? Holy crap, has anyone ever hunted? Has anyone ever gone hunting here before? Do you know how hard it is to shoot an animal with a gun? Holy crap, can you imagine with a spear? Like, you ever seen someone like fishing and they just like, pow, pow, and they like pull the fish out and the fish is like, right? Like, yo, it's really hard. So I'm always willing to farm because farming is not a sexy sport. But when it harvests, you got a whole field of grain and cucumbers and vegetables that can keep you healthy and take care of you. So I encourage all of you, one of the big things is be farmers, not just hunters. Look, there's seasons for hunting and there's time that, you know, hey, I got to go hunt. Let me go hunt. That's fine. But I want you to be farmers as well. Build relationships. So one of the things that's super important, and I want you to get the long term, I don't want you to think just about yourself today. I want you to think about you, the speaker, 2 years from now, 3 years from now, 4 years from now, right? I've been able to build a very sizable portion of my annual revenue through repeat business. A very sizable part of it, it's about it hovers between 45 and 55% of my annual speaking revenue will come from repeat business. That means it's locked in every year. Pretty good, right? Pretty good. Some people have been with me for like 10 years and it's been like an amazing relationship. So what I'm saying to you is, if you think, oh, Rel, that works for you, but I got to get booked right now, I would argue you said that 6 months ago. I would argue you said that a year ago. Nah, you don't understand. I got to get booked right now. Like I can't play no games. You know what I'm saying? I got to get out there. I got to get these things right now. I would say you probably said that a year ago. How's it been going with that mindset? How's it been going? But if you're like, yo, I'm willing to farm this relationship, I'm going to like, and those of you who went through the TSS system, I talk about it's important to friend request people on Facebook and then put them into a list. And I showed you how to do that. If you haven't seen that, I encourage you to go back to the marketing module and watch it. But one of the things I do is I'll sit there and friend request a bunch of people who I think will work with me or I think are good fits. And then the people who accept, I put them into a called like potential connections or potential clients, right? And then I'll go to Facebook's newsfeed and I'll filter it so just that friend list shows up. And if you don't know how to do that, it's pretty simple. Just look up friend list and filter your feed by your friends list. And then I'm going through it and I'm just commenting and I'm liking and I'm commenting and I'm liking and I'm commenting and I'm liking. Not to necessarily drive anything in that moment and as a transaction, but to farm, to stay present, to stay in front of them. Because what I hope will happen, if humans play the pattern I believe they'll play, if I comment on one of their posts, especially if they have 2 or 3 comments, they'll get a notification that Rel commented on their post. Oh, Rel commented on my post. What did he say? Don't you check out comments more than likes? Like just think about your social behavior on social media. If someone likes your thing, you don't go into your like session and see all the 75 people who liked your post. But if you got 12 comments, don't you read every single one of the comments? So if you spend some time commenting, people will go, what's Rel up to? and then they'll go to my page, and my page is always going to show me doing something really cool or with my family. Like, that's pretty much like the context of it, right? Like, I'm not out here being like, I think the president of the United States is bleedity bloop bloop bloop. I'm not out here doing crazy divisive stuff like that. I'm not out here saying all these people are messing up the country. Like some people be sounding off, and I'm like, why? Do you think that what you're saying is a gem? Do you think you're moving the needle by spreading your vile hate? No, man. Like, it ain't. Anyway, I'm on my high horse. I'm gonna get off it for a second. So you post good content, people come to you, then eventually they gravitate towards you. So I encourage a lot of you to farm and not just hunt, because that relationship is really powerful. Okay. And Jamar, the one thing I'll say about the automated softwares, I don't know which one you use, but you want to be careful about them, because especially Instagram is really popular for these bots that comment. But Instagram, the company, they hate bots. So if they ever find you using it, they could potentially suspend your page. Now, I don't know if you found some beautiful whitelisted one that works, or if, on Facebook, you may have found something really, really cool. I've learned about these things that like follow people and then 2 days later unfollow people, or if someone posts this kind of hashtag, it'll automatically comment, on it. I've seen these, and the advice I've typically been given is, if you get caught, you could get your account disabled, and you just got to ask yourself, is it worth it? So if you've got something that's like whitelisted and it's good, by all means, if you want to share, please feel free to share. But I've seen a lot of people get accounts disabled, and the people I've spoken to have always warned me about it. So again, I've chosen to go the human route to be safe. But if you got something, share it. I think it's worth folks looking into. So thank you for that, Jamal. Odell, give me one more piece of hot fire before we tell them about the cool thing you're doing.
I would just say that I'm not sure how you do the replays or anything like that. Or how you share the bonus content with them. But I would say this is one thing probably in the totality of my career, from when I was selling candy on Jim Rohn and Les Brown motivational tapes back in the early 2000s. I wish I would have done more of, and that's run the stuff back that's good. Like, play it over and over again, because I don't know what most people's brains do, but I know with mine, it's like I'll hear the same thing over and over. I have certain podcasts I listen to, and I know certain episodes, and it'll unlock something where it'll be like, oh, let me do that. So you might hear virtual holiday party now as we come upon the holiday season, and then in January, you might think, oh, I'll do this or I'll do that. So continually study the stuff that we've been talking about, because I'm not sure exactly what special Aurel gave you all for the TSS system. Not going to tell y'all how much I paid for it back back in the day, but it'll be ultimately like 100 times more valuable if you play the stuff back, because a lot of the stuff is very subtle, but it's very, 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 very important to building relationships, to making sure that you offer like really, really great content, to make sure that you are approaching your client. The thing that he just shared about the Facebook list, I've been doing that for years, but it's basically like free advertising, because they get to see over and over again. Oh, Aurel Moody, like Odell Bazell. And I'll say it all the time, and some people might not. Maybe this is hot fire, maybe it's not. But one of the best ways to get ahead is nepotism. If I know you, I'm going to look out for you and yours. If I know that you have a family, oh, Odell, how old are the kids now? Oh, they're getting close to college. If the person that I've been talking to, like, you know what, in the back of their mind, I'm going to help Odell out. period. Arel might be a better speaker than me, but they'll be like, you know what? I'm gonna help Odell out because I've known him longer. I see his stuff more. I like his, I like that he likes LeBron or whatever, like whatever it is. They'll see that personality and they'll like you as a person. And then you'll have more and more opportunities, because once those friends become your friends, it's easy. Like right now, I don't know if she's still on here. I know Jessica Lundy was on here, and historic. And then after this, I'll give this to you. Historic relationship building. So Jessica invested in TSS. Jessica had no idea who Odell Bazell was. She invested in TSS, started stalking the TSS group. I was speaking in Atlanta, and she connected with me like a week before or something like that. And she wanted to come see me speak. I'm one of those people, I don't really like strange people like that. Like I'm just like that. And so Arel said, hey, somebody from TSS is going to be reaching out. Her name's Jessica. She's cool. She's a rock star. Look out for her. When Arel said that, Jessica was no longer a stranger to me, because I trust Arel. I've known Arel. I'm like, all right, you know what? Applications for friends for Odell is closed, but you know what? Arel got her in. And so then Jessica sat in on a workshop. That workshop, not going to divulge all the details, that workshop turned into a 5-figure contract for Jessica. So think about what I just said. Relationships. She couldn't have messaged me cold and said, hey, I want to come see you speak. That's weird. Nope. I don't know. For me personally, like, who sent you? You know what I mean? Like, no, absolutely. But Arel said, hey, look out, girl Jessica. And then, so I want you all to really, really focus and listen, play this back, and continually invest in relationships, invest in getting in front of people. That's what the real secret to success is.
It is, and I can't stress that relationship key. You're hearing us talk about this a lot, because this is the thing that I would argue is not quote unquote sexy, because people are like, oh, what's the new chat bot? Like, how do I use chat bots? Everyone's talking about chat bots, right? It's like, yeah, that stuff is cool, but I mean, think about this for a moment. How many new things have come and gone in just our like last decade of living? You know, how many like this is the next cool thing? And ultimately, I remember my mentor. I was very fortunate when I was 19 to get, I'm still mentored by this gentleman to this day. I met him, and he liked basketball, I like basketball, so we kind of connected. And he said, you know what the problem is with a lot of young players is that they're so caught up in like fancy dribbling that they don't learn the fundamentals of passing, shooting, getting that really solid. Then you can add fundamentals on top of that, right? I think this relationship side is, I've always felt weird about it, because I've really been like, yo, this really is the truth, but it's like so almost non-sexy. It's like people want me to like say, here's the rocket ship, and press the button, and the rocket ship goes into the air and it shoots off this message that goes directly into the, like Inception, into the brain of the people who can book you. And they're like, oh Lord, show me the Inception rocket. But if you actually get, okay, if I can write articles, get those published, share those with people, I can get a foot in the door. If I'm hosting my own virtual event, I can then, instead of trying to get someone on the phone who I don't know has never met me, I can invite them to my virtual event so they can see me speak, because I know there's nothing more powerful than that. And then even if I invite people and they say no, right? Even if I invite people and they say no, that's a touch point. That's a touch point, and that's really important. I would rather invite someone to something and they don't show up, but at least now I'm not such a stranger. My name is not such a stranger. My visual, like of what I look like, if it's a social media thing, is not a stranger. So I do a lot of touch points and relationship building, and then I nurture the ones that reach back. So if I shoot out, 100 people, Most people, their first initial email again is a transactional email. Can you do this for me? Jump on the phone, book me to speak, something like that. If it's helpful, and I'll say this is important. When you are communicating, it is important that you are communicating the problem that you solve. Lots of people say, I'm a leadership speaker. Can we jump on the phone and talk? No. But if you know someone like Dave Kelly, who's a good friend of mine, and I'm sure a good friend of yours too, Odell, this guy's like the Robert Rules of Order champion. Like if you need to learn, like if there's a group, a student group, and they need to learn Robert Rules of Orders and how to run a meeting like through that, that's the guy. So when he goes, I do student leadership presentations and we focus on how to teach them how to use Robert Rules of Orders. This is great for new leaders and this is great for emerging leaders so they can learn how to be better leaders. And then here's this great content on how to do it if you want to do it. 9 times out of 10, they go, I don't want to do it. I'm busy. You do it, right? This is one of the secrets, by the way. I call it a secret of good content because people have a fear, oh, if I give away too much good content, then they're not going to need me. But in reality, they're busy doing the things that they're doing all day. You give me good content and I go, I don't want to do it because I'm busy and I could do it, but then I can't hang out with my wife because, okay, catch this. A student affairs professional sometimes works from like 8 a.m. to like 9, 10 p.m., right? You guys know this? They work all day. It's not a regular job. Anyone who's in college, student affairs, they're working all day sometime. Anything that can shorten their day so they can have some semblance of a personal life is like a fantasy to them. So if you come in and say, hey, your students are not engaged, they're not involved, I can help them with that. I can show them how to do that. Here's some great ways to do that. We solve this problem. Then it's like, I could do it myself, but then I got to do this workshop and I got to prepare 25 hours for this workshop and I got to deliver this workshop and I don't want to. Let me go bring in Angela. Let me go bring in Erin. Let me go bring in Chris, right? Like it's better. And then I know your stuff is good because I trust you, because I've seen your content or I've seen you speak. It's easier. So I encourage you to not actually feel this fear that if you invite someone to a presentation, you give away your best stuff, that they're gonna just do it themselves. I think it's actually the opposite. I think you actually earn their respect and you earn their trust. So the more you can do that, so again, you can self-invite people so that they can come to see you. You can build that long-term relationship, provide good content for them. And one of the big things I do is I like when I'm at an event, especially there's lots of different events. Like there's a group called NACA. If you've not heard of NACA, NACA, and it's not cheap. I think it's like I don't know. I think all in it could be $5,000-$6,000 to go to one of their showcases. So it's kind of expensive. But if I go and there's a list of people that are there, you best believe I'm building relationships with every single one of those people. So I have my list, which is the people who like said they're interested and want to stay in touch with me. So let's say out of 400 people, that's like 50 people. That's my hot list. Then if there's anyone who expressed any interest in me, obviously that goes onto the hot list as well. Then there's that cold list, which is none of all those people who didn't interact with me in any shape, form, or fashion. I'm still playing the long game on those people. And I'm still building a relationship with those people because they may not book me today, but they might book me tomorrow. Because I had someone say to me, and I never forgot this, and I was super grateful. It was probably the first year I was speaking. And I met someone. And I was very grateful for this. He said to me, Aurel, I love your energy. I love what you're doing. I would love to book you, but I'm not going to book you. I was like, damn, that's like getting dissed in my face. Like, why would you say that? And he said, because do you know how many people show up to these events and never show back again? He's like, if I see you again next year, I'll book you to speak. And I was like, this is some like, not like, I was like, I didn't know how to take it. But then I realized really what he was saying, because the longer I started going to events, I started realizing there's like 2 or 3 people that show up every year. And then there's these fly-by-nighters that show up once and don't show back. And they're like, they don't want to invest in those people because they know they're not really in it for the right reasons. So it's super important that you build this relationship mindset and you do everything you can to get in front of these people and start building those connections, emailing them, friend requesting them, sharing that content, letting them see you speak, because that relationship will make your life so much easier. And I would love for every single one of you to get to the point where you're getting repeat business. So you don't have to hunt all the time, and you don't have to like throw spears at wild boar that you can't catch. And then you gotta be like, I think Jim Rohn said, timid people have skinny kids or something like that. I don't know. I'm messing this up here.
Zig said that.
Who said it? Zig?
Zig said that.
Yeah. So you gotta be but you gotta be a farmer, you know, and you gotta do it. But no one is gonna believe you're the best because you said it. No one's gonna stop what they're doing and book you because you say they should. They've got to see it. They got to show. They need to. You need to not tell me what you can do. You need to show me. And what I say about the virtual world, which is so cool, is previously you were limited to geography. Meaning, I'm in North Carolina. I can invite a bunch of schools in North Carolina to come see me speak. But now virtually, I could literally invite everyone. Delaware, Wisconsin, Vegas, whatever, right? I think those are all electoral college things. I think that's still stuck in my head here, right?
Oh my
God. That was all like electoral college states that were very important, right? So obviously I've been watching the election. Well, my point is, if you're hosting an event or speaking somewhere, your potential invitation list is so much larger because they can be anywhere. And people are always looking for their next LeBron James, their next Steph Curry, their next rock star. So if you know that's you, you just have to do everything you can to be in front of them and build that relationship. And what I'll say is, I want Odell, I know that you're doing something with, it's actually cool. Odell created something called NAMCA. And I'll let you tell a little bit more about it, but I just want to explain why I think it's the coolest thing in the world. Odell has a relationship with like dozens of colleges that have worked with him, and he's really good at building relationships. That's the one thing I appreciate about him. So what he's figured out is these people need to book speakers, but a lot of the events that these people go to are not necessarily built with them in mind. And I want to be respectful of saying that because there's lots of great organizations out there. But the way that he built NAMCA was, let's engage these people to be part of the process. So not just, oh, I'm going to book someone, but it's part of the engagement process of someone speaking. Let me give them feedback. Let me give them things. Oh, I'd like to book this person as well. That's really powerful. I've never actually seen anyone do that. So if you could, I really want you all to stick around for this because it's super important. If you want to build relationships, if you want to get in and you're like, well, I don't want to necessarily start from zero and get in from zero. I want to start with like this windfall of people who want to support me. NAMCA is an association that allows you to do that with dozens of student affairs professionals. So Odell, tell us about it, and because I think it's important for people to know it exists and that it's a really, really great option.
Yeah, NAMCA, again, it was birthed through relationships. You know, it was something that a speaker friend of mine kind of that came up in our, cohort, Stan Pearson II. We were at an event, and again, talking about relationships, and we were at this event, Arel, where there were people doing the craziest things. Like, it wasn't a speaking event. They were doing the craziest things in these little niche markets. And me and Stan were just looking at each other like, we got to do something. And the thing that Stan really, I give him credit for this, is he said, we've got to build something greater than us. And so what can we give? What can we give? And so then originally we were just like, just like everything that we're talking about here, relationships, Stan was like, well, I've got about 12 people I could text right now. And I bet you got about the same amount of people. What if we just did like an event and just did like a forum, like where we're asking questions about speaking and da 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 da. And so then we pulled some of those individuals into the conversation, and they said, well, you know, why don't y'all do like a showcase like some of those other events, but just include us more in it. And so they kind of gave us the idea. And NAMCA stands for the National Association of Mastermind for Co-Curricular Advancement. And so it's college decision makers that plan co-curricular events. As speakers, we are co-curricular. So that's what NAMCA is really all about, and that we're excited about our upcoming showcases coming in about 10 days. Real, I didn't know you had the look from the bus.
The what?
You had the look from the bus. I thought you was about to say something.
No, see, this is what happens. I got my resting Zoom face. I'm just listening.
You were like,
I'm just like, oh, this is the whole resting Zoom face that I'm telling you about. I kicked into it. This is the creeper side of me coming out. No, I have nothing to say. I'm just listening.
Well, cool. So if it's cool, I want to just share my screen and give you all some information about it. I'm not one of those people that comes with a hard sales pitch or anything, but if it's cool, if I just get one yes in the chat, I'll share a little bit about the showcase. And if you all have any questions, just let me know. Just need one person to say yes. Not a lot of people, just one person. There it is. We got one. All right, cool. So, and I do this for historical context. This is somebody who's real near dear to my heart. I know Ariel knows this guy, Peter Billigus. I was first introduced to showcases for him. I saw Peter book 27 speeches from one showcase. For him, that meant about 80K. We haven't really been talking a whole lot about money. I'm going to talk about money a little bit. I hope that's okay with y'all. This is a more kind of recent case study, if you will. Raquel Bartoli, who is also a TSS alum, she and we did 2 events together right after COVID. And so she does really, really well in an organization called TRIO, a federally funded organization. We did 2 events, 153 TRIO professionals, 661 students registered. This is what this meant for Raquel. We created our own showcase for one another. She got over 1,000 emails from registrants, 20 paid events after COVID, over $60,000 in speaking revenue because she got in front of people. They fell in love with her and what she had to offer. And she's been eating off of that ever since. And super proud of her. This is another case study. Nick DiStefano, he attended one of our NAMCA events, and he booked a virtual event from the summit that we did. Cesar Cervantes, a TEDx speaker, somebody who had been speaking for a little while. He just hadn't been able to get out there. I encouraged him to host his own event. There, Jessica Lundy again, boy, I tell you, she everywhere, but she was a part of this event. 550 decision makers, emails collected. So these individuals, when Caesar emails these individuals, they're warm to him. They were served by him. And so that's what we really want. And this is what the line for the speaking game looks like, you all. That's why you get the help of individuals like Ariel. And it'd be cool if we could get to the front of the line quicker. We talked about how relationships is the way to do that. And so I just want to introduce you to this cool opportunity that's sponsored by Impact Speaker Academy, which is my company. You get a chance to get in front of 60 college event planners. 60. What's really, really cool about this is that, just like I told you with the analogy with Ariel introduced me to Jessica, so Jessica's cool. All of these higher ed individuals that you're going to see, we are going to be introducing you to them. So you're automatically going to be warmed up to them. And these are all the things that you get. You get to speak in front of 60 college event planners live, 5 minutes on a Zoom call. You get to do your stuff in front of all of them. You get live feedback from them on the spot. Huge. So they can tell you, hey, Aaron, I love your concept, but here's something you could work on, and then you can go work on it. You get 30-minute one-on-one with decision makers. Huge. Aurel talked about friends. You literally have 30 minutes to make a friend right then and there. You also get a link to the recording, because now in the virtual space, people need to see that you're actually like good at presenting. You get that. You also get email lists and strategies on how to follow up. And we're also throwing this in college speaker fast passes, virtual training that you get. You get Speaker Leads Premium. We have over 3,200 college emails. Again, if you got the skin for cold outreach, it makes it super easy. We provide templates and different things. You also get $1 million advice from college event planners, where I'm interviewing them, just like we're interviewing right now, interviewing them, and they're telling you exactly what they're looking for in speakers. You get also interviews with 6- and 7-figure speakers that I know that started in the college space, started in the youth space as well. Aurel, I think we got 2 interviews of you on there. I think we got 2. And plus a whole lot more stuff. So this is what you get: the virtual showcase, 30-minute one-on-one time, all of this cool stuff. And just for the first 10 speakers that are able to take advantage of this, you get 1-hour group session with college event planners. They're going to help you make the showcase your best, because they're going to simply tell you exactly what to do to succeed. Also, you get a super bonus. I call him the interview king. Stan Pearson's always interviewing somebody. He's going to show you exactly how to interview and use your expertise, because when you get interviewed, again, you're introduced to another audience. Many of you on here I never knew outside of Aurel. So hopefully, you know me a little better. And in the future, when I write my New York Times bestselling book, you'll be like, oh gosh, Odell, I got to buy his book. You also get support via our private Facebook group. If you look at the value there, that's legit value. Like, that's not fluff. That's not fluff. And so I just want to ask you all if it's worth it. Like, and a lot of people ask this question: how long will it take to get that money back? Like, you're talking about investing $5,000. Aurel talked about NACA, another organization I love, APCA. You're going to spend a few grand going there, period. And so you might think, how long will it take to get that back? I understand. But I want to respond with this question. Like, do you think if 60 people that were looking for speakers in a virtual space, do you think if they saw you live, you could close one speech at $2,000? Like, if you think that, just put yes in the chat. Just one at $2,000. And I'm telling you, I get paid at the very minimum more than that if 60 people saw you. And for those of you that aren't really true believers in yourselves, you got to believe in yourself more. You think you can book 3 speeches at $750, right? Yeah, you could do that. You can absolutely. And I know that you could do that if you follow and attend the system and the showcase that we're talking about. I want you to meet somebody else. Super proud of this dude, KD Wilson. Background on me: I worked in law enforcement. That was my first job. KD, we went to church together a long time ago. He worked in law enforcement too. Last year, this is his tithe check. For those of you that know anything about giving tithes to church or charity, that's what he gave. 10%. So just do the math. But that's not it. After COVID, post-COVID, $50K KD is made. And this is, I did an Instagram Live the other day. Only 3 people. A whole lot of people aren't watching me on Instagram Live. KD hopped on. He said, I went from leaving my job to replacing my income to beating my income with his help. His talking about me. And then he sent me this 3 contracts going out. That was earlier this week. I think it was Sunday. He sent me that text. And I also love this story too, because everybody, you're not going to get $3,000, $4,000, $5,000 a speech virtually. But Shantia Coley, one of my coaching clients, she attended our very first NAMCA event. She said since COVID, she did 20 paid engagements, brought in $10K. Now, she's an attorney, busy attorney for a Fortune 500 company. She's a wife and a mom to twins. And so just think about the possibilities of that. What could you do with an extra $10,000 right now? 10 grand. What could you do with it? Pay off some credit cards? Maybe you'd have a little less uncertainty about, what's coming up, right? And so what I want to do, like I showed you before, over $5,000 in value, but this is TSS. Ariel told me I got to over deliver to the TSS fam. Again, I'm a TSS alum. So I'm not even going to charge the original price, because if you go to the website I'm going to show you, that is the price that's on here. But for the TSS fam, what we're doing is $1,597, and you get all the stuff that we talked about there. The virtual showcase is November 20th through the 21st. So we're going to break it up in a couple of events because we have so many higher ed people and we don't want to overwhelm them. So you'll get a couple of opportunities, which is pretty cool. 30-minute one-on-one time, email strategies, speaker leads, premium webinar bonuses. $1,597. If you go to that website, impactspeakeracademy.com/showcase-bundle, and if you decide to take advantage of it, you have to put in the code TSS, or it's going to charge you the original price. So put in the code TSS, and then it'll chop off that $900, and then you'll be able to get it for $1,597.
I just put the link in the chat to make it easier for people.
Okay, cool.
No, I'm going to jump in real quick on this one, Odell, and I want to share why this is so. Well, I think it's really, really unique, right? Because these 60 people are not there with the mindset of you must impress me, right? These 60 people are there with the mindset of I'm going to help you get booked either by me or someone else here. Because that's what's really unique about this. Because typically when you go to events like this, you show up and it's like, I spelled the link wrong. Dang it. Hold on. Jamar told me I spelled the link wrong. Put the right link in there. I didn't say spelling was my skill set. Oh, I took okay, thank you. Lord have mercy. I done spelled it wrong. Hold on. So, all right. Thank you, Jamar. I didn't have my Grammarly check, my thing. I'd be using Grammarly. So here's what's interesting about this. Every other showcase that I've ever seen or been a part of, and again, for anyone who's never heard the word showcase is basically when you step up for 15 minutes, 5 minutes, whatever it is. Dang it. All right, I spelled it wrong. You put it in the link, Odell, because clearly I've misspelled it twice. Jesus.
I got you. Go ahead.
I'm going to keep going here. And I'm just going to acknowledge I'm a professional speaker, not a professional writer. That's what Odell does. He's a good pensmith. Okay. So every other showcase I've been to, I typically have to stand up and try to convince these people why I am the man, right? In essence. What's happening here with NAMCA is these people are already on your side. Like they're already on your side. I've never seen anything like that. So like literally you're going to meet with some of those folks beforehand to say, here's what I'm thinking about putting together. And they're going to go, no, don't do that. We hate that. I thought you would have loved it. Don't do it. Do this instead. Here's what I think. Here's where I think we could use that. Make sure to mention that. So they're literally working with you, prepping you, and then you get to go up and present and put up hot 5 minutes, right? And Odell works with you to make sure that your 5 minutes isn't stanky leg, right? Is that a thing? That's an old school reference. Stanky leg.
Stanky leg?
That's an old reference. I went stanky leg on a reference.
I mean, I know exactly what it is.
That's an
yes.
That's an old reference. Like, you don't want to be stank up there. I was gonna say stank, and then I transitioned into stanky leg. We're gonna keep it moving. right? You don't want to go up there and present something that's going to turn people off. Because a lot of times what happens, unfortunately, when people go to showcases, and I've seen this, Aurel, I spent all this money, I went to the showcase, I booked nothing. What the hell went wrong? And I'm like, geez Louise, I don't know. And then I'll see their showcase if they have a video on their phone or something. I was like, holy crap, well, that's what went wrong. Like there was so much that was off about it. So to be able to present to a room full of 60 people who book speakers, literally, they're there to book speakers. He just had this event, and I know people who went to it and booked speaking engagements from it. That's incredible because these people they've booked Odell or someone from his team. They've want to see you do well. So you literally just have to ask yourself, in the virtual world, where I would say on average, the virtual keynote fees are probably a little bit lower than in person. So you're probably going to be looking at like $2,000 is what I'm seeing. It's still a little bit of a wild, wild west, but I'm seeing people very comfortably paying $2,000. Now, people who normally would get $5,000 or $10,000, they may be charging 25% of their fee. So they get in like that $2,000 range. But this is the thing that I'll always say about virtual. Like I was having this actually conversation with Odell about like virtual versus in person. There's pros and cons to both. But one of the things that I love about virtual, no hotel fee, no airport fee, no car rental fee, no gas fee, no toll fee, no food on the road because I want to eat out at a restaurant and charge more. And I'm not gone for 3 days. Flight the day before, speak the day of, fly back home the next day. I remember I was speaking 2 weeks ago at a college, and my wife's like, don't you have a keynote today? And I was like, yeah, but it's in like 20 minutes. And I was like, isn't it weird? Like in virtual, I'm chilling, hanging out with my kids, and then I come into my office, close the door, do my presentation, close the door, and then I'm hanging out with my kids again. Like it literally is. Look, I love in person, don't get me wrong. I love in person, but there's a heck of a lot about virtual that I think is pretty cool. And one of the biggest things is I can impact people and still make a positive difference and still have my personal life. And when the in-person comes back, of course, I'm going to go back to do it in person. But I believe that this virtual world, this hybrid world will always exist. I think too many people are seeing the benefit of in-person and virtual to in-person and all that kind of stuff. So I think there's a huge opportunity for those of you who are saying, I need to get in front of more people. I need to start building a relationship. These are 60 people that you can start building relationships with, that you can start having on your team. And again, if you farm with them and not hunt, those relationships only will lead to more. Because the one thing I know about folks in student affairs, and Odell, correct me if you've seen something different, they move around laterally a lot. So what I mean by that is someone might work at this school and they book you to speak, and then they move over to another college. And I can't tell you how many times someone has worked with me, moved over to another college, that college that they originally with still books me, and now they're at a new institution and they bring me in as well. And that's the power of that relationship and people seeing you do what you do and you being a good person and being long-term thinking. So I encourage a lot of you to say, like, look, you got to get in front of people. You got to make it something that's possible. And I think NAMC I honestly genuinely believe is one of the most fascinating ways to do that because you have them on your team. So if you're looking at it, I would say look at who you need to talk to, look at what you need to do. If you have to look at your visa statement and say, all right, a lot of times when I look at things and I'm like, I'm not sure what to do with it. I'm like, well, Mr. Visa or Mr. Amex is going to hold it down for me today. And then I get it. And then my goal obviously is to make my money back and pay for that in spades. And I found that whenever I've invested in myself, it's always been my greatest ROI, always. So I really, really, really like what NAMCA is doing. I like why it's different. And I like the fact that you have people on your team. So I highly encourage all of you to sit down and say, could I get one speaking engagement? Do I think that if I had people telling me what to say with my message, with my passion, could I get one? And then the other thing I always think about is 50% of my business is that repeat business. So let's say someone gives you one. Let's say you just got one. Let's say you kind of like whatever and you just got one. But that one, what is it worth this year, next year, the year after that? In entrepreneurship, we talk about LTV, lifetime value of a customer. I have multiple customers, singular customers, that have been worth over hundreds of thousands of dollars when I look at their LTV, their lifetime value. They brought me in once, twice, 3 times a year, and they've done this year after year. So a lot of times what happens is people get short-sighted in business and they think about, well, the transaction. I always think about LTV. That's why I'm always playing the long game. That's why I'm always like doing things to build relationships with folks, because if I can get an LTV from one that's 6 figures, that one, whatever that investment is pennies compared to the LTV of it. So I really encourage you to do so. I'm going to pass it over to Odell, see if there's any things that you want to say, and then we'll answer questions and we'll stick around and make sure everybody gets whatever questions they need asked. But I encourage you to click on the link in the chat, the right link, not the one I posted, because Lord knows I can't spell, and really invest in yourself and take advantage. I think that 2021, based on all the conversations I've been having with people and based on what I'm observing, again, wherever you lie on the political spectrum, I do not care. I'm not here to judge or pass judgment on what side is what. But what I can tell you is that most colleges, most of them, are usually, not always, they're usually more on the Democratic side. Okay? Not always, but usually. Now, here's what this means. 2020, for everyone, for lots of reasons, was craptacular, okay? Some great things happened this year for sure, but a lot of crappy things happened, okay? 2021, every single institution is gonna be looking at 2021 like it's the redemption year. This is the year that will make up for 2020. So what I know they're gonna be doing is they're gonna be investing in their students, and they're gonna be sharing with them the message that says, just because this election is going to Biden doesn't mean that the work is done, right? We have to hold on to the work. And if this whole thing flips over and like Trump sues and he wins, they're going to be like, we need to mobilize more people to do good work and stand out there and fight for what's right. So literally either way, history is going to unfold, which none of us know.
And in a real, you said something, I mean to interrupt you.
Yeah, go ahead.
The crazy thing about what you just said is that everybody's message and topic can be woven into that tapestry that you just talked about. Right. Because, and my dad told me this because in August, I actually went to and it was an in-person event. I flew into Florida and spoke in the school studio, which was really cool. And I told my dad, I was like, I guess my work is essential. And without joking, without hesitating, he said, absolutely, you're selling hope. It's like whatever it is that you talk about. My dad doesn't really know exactly what I talk about, but he says you're people want to believe that stuff is going to get better. So they need somebody, they need you. And of course, I don't put myself on the same level as, the frontline workers and all that stuff, but that's a real thing, y'all. America is collectively going through a depression. Collectively. And so when you have whatever you think about anything, politically, whatever, something new is on the horizon. The turn of the seasons, the turn of the year. And when we're talking about 60 people, we're not just talking about 60 people. We're talking about 60 people that have influence, and they're going to be thinking, wow, I saw Aaron at a NAMCA conference. NAMCA's different. This is only our 3rd event. And they're going to be like, I saw Aaron at a NAMCA conference. When the world opens back up or whatever semblance, they're going to have you fresh on their mind versus somebody else, because they would have forgot about me if I didn't follow up and do all the stuff that we're talking about. If I didn't build that relationship, they would have forgot about me. They would have forgot. Arel told you about a lady from the zoo. She forgot about him until she saw him. Oh, you know what? Gosh, darn it. I should hire you. They don't go around thinking about, well, if I could just, let's see, speakers. They don't do that. And so when you're able to get on a Zoom call, like Aurel said, they're thinking, how can I help this person? The pandemic is hurting us. You know what? I've got a training coming up. I can try them out. Let's see if it works. That's the type of mindset that they have. And they're vetted by us and they're trained by us. So we only bring people on that actively book speakers or have been in that world, and they know why they're there. Like, they know they're not coming there just to, like, well, I'm just filling a spot. They're like, all right, I know that I have this coming up. So that's what they're looking for. And the last thing I'll say before we open up for questions or end up is that the people that have been booked, like I showed you Nick DiStefano, Nick did something very unique. All of the people that he met, he sent them a t-shirt. He sent them something physical. Guess how many speakers did that at the showcase besides him? Just guess. Nobody. Nobody did it. He did it. And the screenshot I showed you, he told me in July he got 1. He's told me since then he's gotten 3. And it's all because, like Aurel's talking about, farming. So it's not just 60 people. You have people, 60 individuals that are in charge of multiple opportunities, and they're connected to other people, because the reason why it's 60 now, it was only 30 last time. There are more people talking about NAMCA, like, hey, have you heard of NAMCA? Da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da. So it's a really cool opportunity. It's something that we're doing. Again, I know it's not for everybody. And, you know, I'm always one of those people that's sensitive about, you know, what you're going through fiscally and all that stuff. And I know what we're going through, but if you can make it work, I assure you it'll be worth the investment in you.
Yeah, so I will piggyback on that, and let's get into these questions here too. The last thing I'll say about NAMCA is you have to realize that the investment in yourself is always going to be the most gut-wrenching, the most nervous, the most queasy, because you're forcing a previous identity of who you were to no longer exist. And if we had more time to go into identity work, it's some of my favorite work. When you look at your identity, there's an identity that says, I want this, but I'm not willing to put in the work. I would always ask you, what would the best version of yourself do? Not the most scared version, the one that's playing not to lose versus the one who's playing to win. There's a different way to play the game. You can play not to win. Excuse me, you can play not to lose, but it's a very different way to play the game than if you're playing to win, right? So I really, really encourage you to realize that that nervousness and that queasiness, a lot of it is coming down to you're changing your identity to the best version of yourself, and your current version doesn't like that change. So even though you intellectually want it, you'll feel this emotional drag. So you have to just ask yourself, what would the best version of myself do? If the best version of yourself would do it, I always encourage you to expand, because I've never regretted things that I've done. I've only regretted things I haven't done. So with that said, I want to answer something Geraldine asked, because it's important. She said, I'm coming out with a book next month discussing how to succeed as a recent college graduate, physically, mentally, financially. I'm not sure if now's a good time to try and book speaking engagements. I'm also 23. So I feel discouraged sometimes, like, who am I to try to speak to others about success? So I'm going to tell you a story about how I got started speaking at age 22. Okay? I'm going to tell you exactly what happened to me. Odell, you know Victor Antonio, right?
Of course. Yeah, I have a story about him too, but yeah.
OG. So Victor's probably like, I don't know, 50s, maybe 60s at this point in the game. I don't know, maybe, right? So he's in his 50s or 60s. And he went to my college to speak. I had since graduated, and I came back to see him speak because I was like, yo, I want to do speaking one day. I got to go see this dude, Victor Antonio, right? So I see Victor Antonio speak. Dude's great, rocks the stage, gives me his book, signs it for me. I still have it somewhere in my thing here, right? He's not a Binghamton alum. He just got hired by Binghamton to speak. I'm a Binghamton alum, you know that. So I went back to see him speak. So I go up to him and go, yo, Victor, look out for me in about 20 years, man. I'm going to be a speaker just like you. And he stopped at me and goes, why wait 20 years? And I was like, oh man, I'm like 22 years old. I just graduated college. Like, why? No one's going to listen to me now. He said, wait a minute, tell me about what you've done. So then I told him about what I went through in college, what I've been through. And then he said this and it like switched something in my brain. He was like, yo, when I speak to students, I'm a father figure. If you speak to students, you're a big brother figure. We need both of those. And I was like, yo, that's and that became my competitive advantage. All of my stuff, like my first moniker was America's Top Young Speaker, right? Like I really leaned into that young speaker part, right? Now I can't use it because I'm in my mid-30s. I can't be calling myself a top young speaker, right? So I leaned into that. This generation, and this is what I would say if I were in your shoes, right? And this is your competitive advantage. This generation is the hardest generation to reach than any other generation before. If you come at them with the same old tired strategies that worked 20, 30 years ago, you're going to get met with blank stares and a cricket sound. I mean, think about how many young people, they make decisions and you just can't understand how they think. One of the benefits of bringing in me, Geraldine, is that I understand how they think. I understand what makes them tick because I am them. But the difference between me and them is I have enough life experience to know how to get them through the other side. If you want to bring in a speaker that's going to be professional, that's going to get the job done, but most importantly, understands what they need and how to say it so they get it, that's why you need to work with me. And when you position it that way, everyone's going to go, yo, you're right. Now, let me flip it. Now that I'm older, this is what I would say now. Like, so let's say I was 55 years old. Let's say I was 55 years old. I would come in and say, listen, you don't want to bring someone in who doesn't know what they're doing and doesn't have real life experience. You have to bring in someone who understands life and has experience so they can best share what really works, not from theory, but from practice. That's why I'm the best speaker, because I've been through X, Y, and Z, and I can help your students make the best choices. And let's bring this experience of what we know works into the marketplace. So if I'm young, I'm flipping it that don't worry about these old people. They don't know anything. Work with me because I can connect. If I'm old, I'm positioning it as my experience is what matters. And either way, if I sell the idea enough, the people listening will go, yo, that makes sense. So someone like you, G, right? You could get that book, and let's say you're doing NAMCA, right? And you do that 60 person. You can literally send a copy of that book to each one of them. Hey, this is the book, so they can play with it. They can read it. They can, go through it. And then they can go, oh my gosh, this person's amazing. So I would encourage you to realize that right now is the best time. Right now is the best time to start building and planting seeds and doing things for your book, because 2021, no matter what happens, they're gonna need hope. They're gonna need look, anything with mental health. Like I know you said how to succeed mentally, financially, and physically, right? Like mental health, if you can connect your message into mental health, it's easy money, because they have to do that kind of programming. There's certain programming colleges have to do. They have to do something around mental health. So if you can connect that in and talk about that, there's no way they can't. It's not a matter of will they book it. It's a matter of which person will they book. The only reason why I would argue they're not booking you is they just don't know you exist. None of these people can book you because they just don't know you exist. So they know Joe exists, so they book Joe. Your job is to make them know that you exist. And that's how you make a difference. And that's how you get out there. And yes, if it's me versus you, Alex, the isms is coming out. Okay. If you young, I'm gonna be like, you young puppy, you don't know nothing. If I'm young, I'm like, you don't want nothing from these dinosaurs. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's all like I always say, like, play your card. Whatever if you're okay, so let me show you how this card works, right? I'm brown. I don't know if you guys can tell. I get booked a lot to speak at like all white schools. And let me explain why. A lot of these like places like in Oklahoma, rural places in Oklahoma, they may not have diversity there, right? They just may not. And it's not like anything against those people. They're fine, good people. They just don't have diversity there. So it benefits me to go there. So instead of it being like, oh, they don't want to book me because I'm some brown guy. And it was like, no, that's the reason we want to book you. It's because we need to expose our kids to that, and you're awesome. So let's bring you in. I can also go to the inner city of certain areas where everyone looks more like me. And now I'm a mentor. I'm someone who they see themselves like, oh, we want our boys to grow up to be men like you. You're an example. In your case, Geraldine, right? I want our girls to look like you and aspire to grow up and be like you. So whatever your card is, you play it. If I was like all white, like I'm half white, my mom's white, my dad's black. If I was all white, I would just play it. I wouldn't explicitly. I've never explicitly said, "Hey, I'm brown, bring me in." I've never explicitly said it. But like there's reason why my picture is on things. I want people to know what I look like. Like that picture is actually, we can't even go to the deep psychology. We can if y'all want to stay on it because it's fun. But like, people need to see you so they can create decisions based on you. So like if you don't have your picture on your book, that's a mistake because people need to see it. But you can, if I was all white, I can like relate to them more. So there, whatever it is, man, like you find whatever your card is and you play it. And I promise you, whatever your card is that you think is your wall can actually turn into a step that gets you to a next route. But that has more to do with our mental programming than with reality. More questions. We gonna ride, man. We going.
I saw a question, Frankie, payment plan. On the page, I believe there's a plan. Hold on, I'm gonna look at it just to be 1,000% sure. There's a 2-pay plan. So the if you put in the code again, make sure you put in the code TSS. You'll get a discount as well. The second payment is the 2-payment plan is 2 payments of, and I'm just working it out here. It's 2 payments of $900. So you're gonna pay a little more if you go that payment plan, but it's still gonna be an opportunity. Appreciate you, and also I'll say to Geraldine, I started when I was 22. The same kind of thing. It was like, well, I'm young, and I wrote a book, so that's how I actually got booked first because I had a book. And so when you're young, make sure that you are doing something different. And so writing that book, getting that thing done, getting even a digital copy, making sure that you are about something is huge. So, yep. Jessica, appreciate you. And I know you don't talk to people no more because Hollywood is different when you come Hollywood. But I appreciate you hopping on all that stuff. Alex, appreciate you. Appreciate the engagement. Frankie as well. Hope to see you all at the NAMCA showcase. It's going to be really dope. It's going to be really cool. I'm looking forward to it, and I appreciate your time and effort. Ramona, oh, I appreciate you. We need to talk. We need to talk soon when we get a chance. Appreciate y'all. Any other questions?
We're gonna rock. I mean, it's always fun. It was funny. I was talking to Odell, and I was like, all of my trainings, I always go super deep into them. I know a lot of other people like they go, oh, I'm gonna give you like 45 minutes and then bounce, which is great. But like,
I'm people.
Like, let's go deep, man. Like, look, let's ask questions. What kind of questions do you guys?
Well, people know, like with me, I'll tell you, like, look, we got an hour hard stop. Like, I'm like, look, it's a hard stop. At 9 o'clock, I'm cutting it off. Aaron knows I'm done. Like, I gotta go. And it's usually, I'm not even gonna say that because it's not my call. But usually I got stuff to do. I'll just say that. I got stuff to do. I gotta go. But I will hang out and answer questions normally. But I also don't have all the analogies. I don't have the rest in Zoom face analogy. I don't have people feeding my kids or pouring highly carbonated high fructose corn syrup into my kids' throats. I don't have all that stuff. So
Worse.
I don't have those. Now I feel like I have to add more entertainment to my training.
All right, this is your time, folks. If you got questions, you can ask them. If not, we'll say goodnight. I'll give it another 2 minutes or so. This is one thing I used to do a lot. This is what I used to do a lot. I would do an awkward stare that would force people to ask a question. So this is how the awkward stare works. I would do this with some of my coaching members. I always find it funny. I would say, I'm gonna do an awkward stare until someone asks a question, and I'm just gonna make it awkward for everybody. Ready? Here it goes. Okay, we got a question. Hold on. And I would do that for as long as it took. And then someone would be like, stop doing it. It's making me uncomfortable. I was gonna ask a question, damn it. All right, could you potentially get booked from just content from YouTube, or does that content have to be of you speaking in front of people? So if you have a speaker demo video, that's gonna be most important. That's like the #1 goal. If you do not have one, then that YouTube content will give people a sense of your energy and your style. So that is a good solution. However, what I will tell you is you want to create YouTube content that matches what someone's experience might be speaking. Here's why. If you watch most speaker demo videos, people are on stage, it's cut, there's music playing. It's like, bah, 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 the best speaker in the world. Oh my God, he changed my life. I was thinking I was gonna be a slug, and now I'm a T-Rex, right? Like all these great quotes and all this hot move in, and people are laughing in the audience, and someone sees that and they're like, oh my gosh, it's wow. If you do a YouTube video and it's just like you're a talking head, it doesn't create the same energy that matches what like they would want to bring on stage. So you just have to make sure that your YouTube content is created in the vein that would match that experience someone would have if they would bring you in. So you can't just be like, hey everyone, I want to share with you this really great tip. It's gotta have more pizzazz and more jazz. And with YouTube nowadays, the expectations are just, I think they're super high. I think people expect like mom and pop YouTube channels to be producing like Marvel, like studio quality stuff. So if you can create that, I think that's good. And you should always have the intention of creating a demo reel at some point. So if you could do some virtual keynotes and put together some virtual content, cut it up, make it look good, great. If you could do some like really inspirational, like, it's got some, Inception music in the background and it's a montage, you working out, sharing some really deep ideas that are motivating, that's good too. But in my opinion, I think your speaker demo is always going to be your most powerful marketing tool. That's video content. Aaron asks, how important are testimonials for selling your expertise? I think that, so testimonials is really what's called social proof. You need other people that are willing to co-sign for you. So it's an element of persuasion. Social proof is super, super important. So I would encourage you to get testimonials. You don't actually have to get testimonials from people who booked you to speak. So you can just get testimonials. Like, let's say you have a friend that is a teacher. I'm making this up, right? Your friend can go, yo, every time that I have a conversation with Arel, He always knows exactly what to say and, helps me become a better educator. And I'm so grateful for him. I can use that as a testimonial in the beginning because it's not saying Aurel was the greatest speaker who ever lived. It's saying that how I've helped support that person. So that's number one. So you can get social proof testimonials from people who have booked you to speak or people who can just vouch for you. Number two, I think nothing is more important than being able to properly articulate the problem you solve. There's something that is the nirvana of all business, which is called product market fit. I think not enough conversation happens about this, but product market fit, Aaron, is when the product, which is your speaking in this case, matches a need that this particular market wants. So we talked about Jessica Lundy and Raquel and how great they're doing with Trio. Their product, their speaking engagement, who they are, is a really great match for that specific market, which is Trio. So the more you can solve the problem and articulate why you can solve the problem and build relationships to show over and over again you can solve the problem, I would argue that is more important than anything else. However, I will always have social proof testimonials on anything that I put together. A website, speaker demo video, newsletter or something. I'm always going to put some type of thing in it if it's like a static, because it's just social proof. It's super important. Yeah, you're welcome.
And last thing, that's what's cool about the NAMCA showcase is that after you do your showcase, like the higher ed folks right then and there, they take like a couple minutes to share feedback in a Google form, and then it gets sent to the speakers afterwards. So you can, if they say, wow, that was great, we could see that at this or something like that, or I really loved your story about whatever, you can say, Stephanie H from, Ohio State said blah, 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 blah. So you have that built in.
Yeah, that's really powerful, because if you have those 60 folks and on that form, they say something like, yo, Aaron, I think so many people can relate to you. Then you could literally just take that snippet that I always look for, like whenever someone says something nice to me, I always look for that one snippet that I can clip out and just put some quotes around it and then turn it into a quote. So it's a really great way to get it. And you'll have say 50 or 60 colleges that are giving you quote unquote a testimonial. So now on your site, it might look like you've spoken all over the country, but that's actually pretty cool. That's actually really cool. That's really cool. Cedric, what would be some of the first steps a new speaker would take if they want to create an event then invite decision makers? So one, choose your platform, Zoom, Google Meet, whatever it might be, right? People are pretty comfortable with Zoom. It's very popular. So you would create Zoom. If you do Zoom meeting, you're going to get a 100-person limit. So you just can't have more than 100 people. And that one is your least expensive one. So I would just start with that. And you would come together with what your benefits are, what problem you're solving, why people should attend, and use that in the email to invite people on a specific date and time to attend, right? Now, keep in mind, if you're reaching out to cold audiences, you just have to understand when I say a low turnout, it's just low turnout. It's part of the process. So you have to have high numbers of outreach to get the kinds of and I don't know what the exact ratio is, but let's say you'd have to put out, 500-600, emails to maybe get, 50 people to show up or respond. And then to have and usually you have about 40 to 50% of people who register who actually show up and attend. So it's just something to keep in mind that that's part of the process. So it has to be high. You can't do 50 outreaches and then you get 30 people to show up. It's just not, no one does that. So that would be some of the first steps. You get the link, you literally just send them directly to the link and say, we're going to be doing on this day. Would you like to join? If you have the ability to create squeeze pages, lead capture pages, I would encourage it so you can grab their emails as people who've opted in. If what I said made no sense to you, Cedric, don't worry about it. Just send them the Zoom link. If you use Zoom webinar, you can do a lead capture through Zoom. So, but Zoom webinar is just a little bit more expensive. And then you would find that list of people that those directors, executive directors, assistant directors of student life or student affairs or Greek life or orientation, and then you message them inviting them to join. So again, it's a lot of boots on the floor. Around marketing, the best kind of marketing is twofold. Number one-on-one outreach is way better. So a lot of people throw they'll buy an email list or scrub a list and throw 500 emails into MailChimp and email 500 people. There's just a higher chance, because those people haven't opted in and you're using a list, that the deliverability would be low. So I would encourage one-on-one email. It's always gonna be better, and it's real. So either you hire someone to do that one-on-one outreach, or you do it yourself. You can run, if you have that long list, say a list of 500 people, you can upload that as a Facebook ad to target just those people. So if you have a familiarity with online marketing, you can take that list, upload it into Facebook and say, target just these people. And then people can click on it and go to that event, right? So if I was doing it, those are the two avenues that I would consider taking. But transparently speaking, I would just go to NAMCA, because all those steps are already done. The relationships are the biggest part. So if I know I got 60 people, I just got to ask myself, how many hours and how long would it take for me to get my own 60 of people who are bought in and not skeptical? So if you want to do that work, that's the way I would approach it. If you want to kind of skip the line, I would consider doing a showcase like a NACA or a NAMCA or APCA or something like that.
Good stuff.
You're
Real,
right.
I have a question for you before we
we got 4 minutes and then we're wrapping this bad boy up.
I got a question for you if nobody else answers the question.
I have a funny feeling this is going to be a ridiculous question, so go ahead.
No, it's not. It's not going to be ridiculous at all. Like I said, I'm on your line, so I'm going to be good. But when you used to, or I know you probably get on webinars and get on trainings and stuff like this. When you got on stuff like this, were you ever on somebody's training for 2.5 hours and you're like, wow, this was amazing?
Is that the question?
That's the question.
I have no idea where you're leading me with this question. I've gone on to virtual trainings and been very impressed by them. Yes, I have definitely. But I can tell you, it's not. I mean, here's the cool thing, right? We're rocking. Who's still here, by the way? If you can hear my voice in the chat, just say I'm here. I just want you to catch this. So I'm here. Okay, yeah, just say you're here. Yeah, actually I want to see it. 2.5 hours, Erin, right? Dart, Cedric, Jessica, Jamar, Geraldine, right? It's not easy to do that. But if you're here, I would argue it's for a reason, and again, I'll say, if you're spending this much time, it means you're really passionate about this. A lot of people kind of say they want something, but they're never willing to invest time or money in it. And it's well, how bad do you really want it? All of you are here because you're the ones who invest in yourself. You're really, you care. So I just, I take my hats off to you, because I know so many people out there who want it, but don't want to put in the work and they want to not pay the price for success. And if I attend a training, I'm one of those people, I stick around to the end, because I'm I might hear something at the last minute, and that was everything that I needed. So anyway, that would be my answer, Odell.
Yeah, there was a reason I was asking you that question, because that, I think, I don't know for sure, but I think most people, and for whatever reason, like some, you gotta put the kids to bed, or whatever reason, but most people approach the speaking game like, oh, that's easy, I can do that, or it doesn't take that much. And that, I think for people that like read long form content, for people that attend trainings, that actually like stay till the end and all that stuff, and for those of you that are still on here, that is, if I could encourage you, if you don't, attend any showcases ever, like always be intense and passionate, and run through the tape, like stay to the end, because most people don't do it. And then what'll happen is, in the future, Arel might see your name somewhere, and he might be like, I remember that name. I remember that name. I remember that name. Just like we're talking about reaching out to other people, you connect to people that are rising in their own fields, and eventually they'll be like, hey, maybe we can collaborate on something. Maybe we can do something together. And so that's why it's really important. But I just wondered that if you were like that, because when I used to get, like, when I was broke at 23 and with a new wife and baby, I used to do that all the time. Like I used to be like, and we didn't have the phones like at that time. Like we was on the computer. Like I'd be Sierra be sleep. I'd be like, I gotta see what he's gonna offer. I'd be on Josh Ship's webinar or something like that. I'm like, I gotta see. Maybe I can do it. Maybe there's enough on the credit card. Like I would be that. So I was just wondering about that.
Yeah, listen, man, I've been doing this since it was do you remember, like, what was it called? Oh man, like teleconferences.
Yeah, teleconferences. I'm talking to Alex Mandozian on Thursday.
Yeah, it literally, we weren't even doing virtual, like Zoom, like we weren't even doing webinars. I remember like calling into a bridge line with like a 6-digit like bridge code and just listen to a whole bunch of people talking and breathing. You couldn't see anything. So anyway, yeah, I met Alex way back in the day. Is he still doing the teleseminar thing? He can't be.
Nah, he's doing what Kern and all of them are doing, like super, a gazillion dollar private clients, and
Yeah.
all that stuff.
Cool. Last question. What is your process for using your story to create content and programs? Odell, I feel like I'm capitalizing on the answers. I'll let you answer the last one.
Cool. Appreciate that. So story is like my thing. And Cedric, I know a little bit about your story. The process that I go through is, what can connect to this story that makes sense for somebody else. So like one story I always use is my failed basketball career. At the beginning of most of my presentations that have to do with success, I say, hey, how many of y'all want to be successful? Like that's like the typical stereotypical speaker question, right? Got to ask you that. How many of y'all want to be successful? How many of y'all had like a crazy dream? And so I can always use that. And so my process is I'll get them on the same wavelength as me. Like, oh, you wanted to do something and it didn't work. I was there too. Or you like, and so whatever story that you are thinking about or whatever content you want, just look at different parts of your life and say, man, what did I learn from that? Like, what did I learn? And then what can the audience learn? If you had a failed relationship or something like that, you can bring, like, depending on how comfortable you are. But what I've learned is the stories that bring me down and humble me, a lot of the audience can relate to that. So I try to find those stories. I also use a lot of stories, like family stories, and you heard it on the training tonight, where it's like you can relate to that because it's like, oh yeah, that happened to me, or I know my niece or my auntie or somebody went through that. So I would say process is figure out what stories, like take that inventory of stories that you have, and then like, dang, what did I learn from that? What did I learn from that? What did I learn from that? And then just create, that point of the story and use it as content. Hope that
With
made
that,
sense.
yeah, with that, I mean, and that's the power when you can. Most people there's a belief that you should never tell a point without a story, and you should never tell a story without a point. So when you look at your content of what you want to teach people, you typically need to match it with either a story or an analogy, or an exercise or an interaction to make that point come alive. So if you look at what you want to teach, then just look in your life and say, when did these things come for me? Like Adele said, right? Like, when did these things show up for me? Then you can tell that story so that your point has a story, and then your story has a point. So if you do those two things, you'll always be in a good place. All right. So with that being said, have a good night. Thank you for sticking around with us. I love doing these in-depth training. Was this helpful? Did y'all get something out of this that you might be able to use in your life? Thank you, team. I appreciate y'all. Appreciate y'all rocking with us. Thank you, Odell, for for being with us and putting up with my in heat analogies and babysitting analogies and all the lefts and the rights that may come from it. I'm going to put the link one more again into the chat. If anyone wants to look at getting in front of people and getting into the front of line, as Odell said, please, please, please check out NAMCA. I highly, highly recommend it. For any of you that need to sit and pray on it, listen to Spirit, and just ask yourself, where do you want your 2021 to be? And think about who you need to be there, and then look back at this present moment and ask yourself, what steps do I need to take to fulfill that future destiny? And I hope that you take those steps and you run with it and you impact lives, because Lord knows we need more people doing good things. So please be that change agent for good, because we need it. So thank you for being here with us. Thank you, Odell. Any last things you want to say before we rock it out?
No, stay plugged into Arel. He's big time, and that again, relationships. Just stay plugged in, consume everything that he says, and do it, because you'll be successful. Period.
Thank you, sir. All right. Have a good night, everyone. Thanks for rocking out with us. Go do stuff. Information means nothing. Action does. Peace.